Welcome to the Registers Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County. This show is about Plymouth County real estate. Our headline for the month was Strong Start to 2020 for Plymouth County Real Estate. This show is being taped in February. We're going to be talking about the January recordings at the Registry of Deeds in Plymouth County. And I have a great guest in the second segment of the show, Steve Damon of Jack Conway Real Estate, who's the immediate past president of South Shore Realtors. We'll be talking about some of our great county history and one of our colonial records as we're celebrating the 400th anniversary this year of the arrival of the Plymouth colonists. So first, let's go to deeds. You're going to see a bar chart of sales of property. There were 672 deeds in January, less than the 854 in December, but more than the 572 last January. We're starting the year 2020 with a 17% increase in deeds from last year. Going to go to mortgages and sales of property. You're going to see a listing of every one of our 27 communities and the number of sales that occurred in the month of January. You can see Plymouth being the largest, Brockton being second, but every community obviously has real estate transactions. When Nick's going to get into mortgages, mortgages have been really increasing over the last number of months. Mortgages can be used to purchase property, and we also record mortgages when people are refinancing their property, when they're getting a new mortgage for a lower rate. So there were 1,862 mortgages recorded in January, less than the 2,407 recorded in December, but up 70% compared to the 1,098 mortgages last January. So for the first month of calendar year 2020, we're up 70% in mortgages. And low rates are continuing. If you haven't taken advantage of it yet, I'd advise you to do so. We also follow foreclosures very closely. Since the meltdown in 2008, we've found that it's very important to track these. The foreclosure rate is very low, only 25 foreclosure deeds in January, slightly more than the 24 in December, 29% lower than last year. Foreclosure notices, a little different story this month because there was a little bit of a bump in foreclosure notices. They're the first document we see in a trend of whether mortgages are going to be coming in the future. So it was 13% up for the first month. We'll watch that very closely. Then you're going to see an image of foreclosure deeds and notices for every one of our 27 communities in Plymouth County. We're e-recording and land court, our next free training room opportunity to get a hands-on training of how to in an organized fashion search our records is Thursday, March 5th at 9 o'clock at our Plymouth office. If you're interested, it's a great program for anyone that's in real estate, genealogists, anyone that wants to understand how to search those records. Call our office first because space is limited, 508-830-9290. I have a great guest in the second segment, Steve Damon of Jack Conway Real Estate, who's the immediate past president of South Shore Realtors. We'll see you in the next segment.
NFC, AFC, offensive linemen, defensive tackles, quarterbacks, and cornerbacks are all living united to ensure the academic success of millions of kids in our communities all the way to graduation day. But that won't happen without you. So take the pledge at unitedway.org. Make a difference in the life of a child. Suit up like your favorite NFL players and become a volunteer reader, tutor, or mentor with United Way.
Welcome back to the Registers Report. My name is John Buckley. In this segment of the show, we always try to do something educational in nature. We've had a variety of lenders, commercial and residential. We've had surveyors, appraisers, attorneys talking about what happens at a closing of a real estate sale. And above all else, we've had a lot of great realtors. And I have a great realtor here with me today, Steve Damon. Welcome back, Steve.
It's a pleasure, John. Thank you.
Steve works for Jack Conway Real Estate, and he's a past president of the second largest realtor organization in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I know I've had you here before.
It's always been a pleasure to come. I enjoy talking about real estate.
Sure.
Been with Conway for 29 years now.
Okay.
So kind of one of the old timers at this point. Working with the South Shore Board of Realtors, the Mass Association, and the National Association, bringing things forward. We're finding that the real estate industry today is a constantly changing, moving animal, I guess. Things are going so quickly. There are different forms of businesses, how people do business, how people sell real estate, trying to keep up with those and be sure that everybody's aware of how these things work. We find that particularly with the realtor organization, it's important to us that knowing which agents are realtors, which aren't, can be an important situation simply because everybody's governed by state law, but as a realtor, we adhere to a higher standard with our code of ethics, which a lot of the state laws are based on.
Yeah, let me get into that in a second. I have to get out one of my Jack Conway stories, which I'm sure it happens all the time. When we built our new building in Plymouth 14, 15 years ago now, the first person that wanted to come down and see it was Jack Conway. And he said, John, I'd like to come down and do a tour of the new Registry of Deeds building. And I said, sure, when do you want to come down? He goes, well, I'd like to do it. I'd like to bring my whole executive team down. So we had a whole group come down. We went to lunch afterwards and had some great stories. And this show is taped in Brockton, but this goes to around 23 of our communities in Plymouth County. But one of the things I remember about Jack was Jack, before he became a realtor, was a sports writer.
Yeah.
And he covered every single one of Rocky Marciano's title fights. And I'd love to see those stories all compiled together someday.
I know that in his office, when Jack was still running the company,
Yeah.
There were several of those that were posted, and some pictures of back when Jack was a young reporter.
Yeah.
Before he got into real estate. One thing about Jack, he's really community minded, and that carries on with his daughter Carol Bowman. Conway finds that giving back to the communities on a corporate level as well as with their agents on a local level is very important to the company.
Yeah, both your company and South Shore Realtors really recognize that being a realtor is a lot different than just a real estate person.
Exactly. Like I mentioned before, the code of ethics plays a big part in how we do our business. With the code, one of the primary guidances there is, integrity, honesty, and the most important person is your client, your buyer or your seller. Your first obligation, your fiduciary responsibility is to protect them and look after them, and that's what the Realtor Association pushes. It's what it's about.
And I know you have to get credits every couple of years in order to maintain your licensed in South Shore Realtors? Runs a lot of great programs. I happened to be in one many years ago.
Yeah, you have to complete 12 hours of continuing education every 2 years. And it's not too hard to do. It covers the classes that are available, the training that's available covers every aspect of real estate you can think about, from financing to selling antique homes. And it's good that we have to do that because like I mentioned before, it's a constantly changing business and you need to stay up. You need the training.
So I know you're now the immediate past president of South Shore Realtors?
And treasurer.
Okay, oh, so you haven't totally gone. So, and I know the work level goes up as you move up the chain, and the year you served as president was very active.
Yeah, as you go up, you start off as the president-elect, and you start losing, I guess you would say, time. The president-elect year and then your year as president, quite busy. You're involved in a lot of things, not only on the local level, but on the national level. And it brings to the realization of just how big this organization is, mm-hmm. and the amount of work and things that they do to protect people's property rights.
Right. How many members of South Shore Realtors?
South Shore Realtors right now is just a little over 3,000. As a matter of fact, we just finished merging with the Greater Fall River Association of Realtors. So they're now part of our organization.
So that's a pretty big service area.
Yes. Pretty much from Boston south. Covers 29 towns.
Wow. Great. Well, it certainly has a great reputation, and you know, people value organizations that they belong to and learn from organizations that you belong to. And I mean, the camaraderie of the job also is important to keep going, you know?
It definitely is. With South Shore Realtors, over the last 5-6 years, we acquired a new CEO, Rachel Tristano, and she came from Chicago. She was with the CRS organization, which is a training organization for realtors. And she just brought an influx of enthusiasm and life into the organization that has kind of trickled down to everybody. And she's quite a motivator. She's done quite a bit for South Shore Realtors and getting us moved forward and up to date with technology and servicing the members of our organization.
So let's put your realtor hat back on. How did you see 2019? Not so far back in the rearview mirror. How was it from your experience?
Well, 2019 was a good year for most real estate agents. Right. I would say that the major difficulty that we ran into is the lack of product, the lack of homes to sell. And I see that continuing into the next couple of years anyway. Somehow we need to find a way to increase the amount of product that we have to sell. There are just not enough houses. We have buyers, and there are people that would like to, that have entry-level homes, that would like to move up, get something larger. Their families are growing, things like that. But they're reluctant to move because there's nothing, the selection is just very, very short. Interest rates still in the 3s.
Right, tremendous.
You can't beat the interest rates. Prices, with the shortage continuing, prices are going to continue to go up.
I saw in the recent jobs report that came out last Friday. They mentioned a number of the increased jobs were construction from home building, but I can't say that I've seen a lot going on in my daily travels between Brockton and Plymouth and around the county that there's a lot of single-family homes going on. Certainly there's, in this end of the county and down the southern end of the county, you see a lot of apartment units going up, but I don't see a lot of single-family homes.
No, I have to agree with you. There have been, particularly in the Bridgewater areas where I do most of my business, there have been 3 or 4 projects that are on the books. They just, for whatever reason, have not come to fruition. But there are a lot of, like you said, single homes going up here and there. Mm-hmm. Probably, for the most part, the cost of land is coming into play. And so you buy a lot that you've paid $100,000, $125,000, $150,000 for. It's kind of hard to build an entry-level home on that property. You're going to be building something that's $450,000, $500,000.
So I've been reading a lot of stories. They claim that the millennials are now getting to the point of home buying. What kind of tips would you give to a first-time home buyer, how to prepare for that and whether or not to make that decision?
I feel that for the first-time home buyer, that what you need to do is, one, you need to get pre-qualified, or actually pre-approved through a bank. The process sometimes can be a pain. The banks, they require more and more documentation all the time. But to sit down with a loan officer and be prepared for what's going on, and then when it comes time to go out and start looking, is to hire get a professional real estate agent who knows the market and is going to look after your best interest to help you find what you're looking for. The big thing with financing, I think, is you need to be prepared. You need the documentation. You're going to need a couple of years, 2 or 3 years of W-2s. You're going to need a good credit history. The big thing is no late payments. Late payments are a killer when it comes to your credit score, and that's important. My son was in the process of buying a house, and he had missed a car payment, and it socked about 100 points off of his credit score.
Wow, wow.
So it can be, being late on a payment can be deadly.
Sure. So I'm going to make a little bit of a transition before we come back to it. Is home ownership is viewed as the easiest opportunity to build wealth, and that's why the ownership that situation we have in America of private property rights is so important. And I know we're working on a project for the celebration of the 400th anniversary of the colonists arriving, being celebrated here in Plymouth Colony, that talks a lot about when the colonists decided to go from common ownership to private property. Do you want to talk a little bit about the importance in the realtors' interest in promoting private property?
Well, with private property, the realtor organization is probably the best guardian of private property rights, with the amount of legislation that goes through in regards to private property rights. We do a lot of lobbying, both on the state and national level, looking after those rights. Home ownership, like you just mentioned, is probably the main way that people either build their net worth or look down the road at providing for their retirement. And it's the biggest single investment that most people make in their lifetime. Whether it's your first house or your third or fourth house, it's an important decision. And having good advisors makes a big difference. And property rights in this country, home ownership, the dream of home ownership, it's getting tougher and tougher. But it's a mainstay. It's something that everybody seems to try to achieve.
Well, I know, as one of those organizations that deals with private property rights every hour with every recording of a document at the Registry of Deeds, we're very interested in promoting that concept in this celebration of the 400th anniversary of the arrival of the colonists. And I know we're looking to partner with South Shore Realtors and others to try to bring some attention to that in the historic event that happened when the colonists in 1623 assigned land ownership rather than common ownership. So I know you'll be involved with that, and I thank you for that and look forward to working with you. Just in the wrap up here, you got a signal from our Mike Simmons over there. Can you share your contact information for anyone looking to contact you, Steve?
All right, well, it's Steve Damon. I'm with Jack Conway out of Bridgewater. Our office number is 508-697-8300. If you want to get in touch with me directly, my cell phone number is 508-962-4255, or you can email me at sdamon@jackconway.com.
Great, it's always good to see you.
John, it's been a pleasure, and I look forward to doing this again.
Right.
Each of us has the power to lift our community. No job is too tough when you live united. When you volunteer through the United Way, you can make a difference in all kinds of ways. Whether you give an hour or a Saturday, there's nothing more precious than your time. You can earn a smile and make new friends. Live united! By joining with your neighbors to make someone's day a little brighter through United Way volunteers.
We cannot be bystanders.
We can stop to make sure someone is okay.
We can warn someone when their drink isn't safe.
And disrupt the situation.
We can.
Get someone the cab.
Or walk them home safely.
We can make campuses safer for our friends,
our roommates,
our classmates, our fellow human beings.
We cannot be bystanders.
We can. Intervene.
It's on us.
All of us.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
I want to thank Steve Damon for his discussion as a realtor with Jack Conway Real Estate, and also for his discussion as immediate past president of South Shore Realtors. Hopefully we will having more information for you about that program that we talked about, celebration of private property rights, as we get further into the 400th anniversary. A number of the holidays for the month of February: Groundhog Day on the 2nd, Wear Red Day on the 7th, awareness of heart disease, Lincoln's birthday on the 12th, Valentine's Day coming up on the 14th, Lithuanian Independence Day on the 16th, President's Day the 17th, Mardi Gras on the 25th, and Ash Wednesday on the 26th. A lot of holidays in February. So let's talk about an individual related to February holidays, Samuel Lincoln. Samuel Lincoln was Abraham Lincoln's first American ancestor. He was born in Hingham, England on August 24th, 1622. He emigrated to Hingham, Massachusetts in 1637. He's credited with helping build Hingham's beautiful old ship church, the oldest meeting house in continually ecclesiastical use in the United States. He bought a house on North Street, across the street from the very impressive statue of Samuel Lincoln's great-great-great-grandson, Abraham Lincoln. At the time the property was deeded to Samuel Lincoln, Hingham was actually part of Suffolk County. So I want to shout out a special thanks to the assistant register up at Suffolk County, Tom Ryan, for helping us put this together. Next, we're going to talk about, in honor of Lithuanian Independence Day, a very famous Lithuanian who grew up in Brockton, Admiral Fred Bakutis. He grew up in the Lithuanian village of Brockton, home to many Lithuanian immigrants and families. After he graduated from Brockton High in the Naval Academy, he became a very distinguished naval fighter pilot, commander of naval forces at both ends of the North Pole. He led a naval task force that recovered Apollo 10. While serving in Antarctica, Bakutis discovered new territory and named it Brockton, USA, Antarctica, in honor of his hometown. In 1967, Brockton Assistant Solicitor Henry Fournette, representing Mayor Jack Sims, presented a time capsule containing Brockton memorabilia to Commander Robert Doherty of nearby Holbrook of the United States Navy. It's on site in Antarctica and is scheduled to open in 2067. And last for our county record is a document for Grover Cleveland. President's holiday this month. Grover Cleveland was the 22nd and 24th President of the United States. He's the only president to run for office, lose, and come back and win the presidency again. He did a lot of hunting and fishing in the Plymouth County area. He stayed at the Isle Wild Hotel on Manamet Bluffs. Became the president in his first term in 1884. He lost his re-election bid to Benjamin Harrison, and later was reelected in 1897. Lived in Buzzards Bay for a long time. But as today, we're in the middle of the New Hampshire primary, I thought it'd be important to talk about one of our presidents that had some strong connections in Plymouth County. You're next going to see an image of the 1623 land division. We're showing one of our Plymouth Colony records every show. In 1623, the colony court decided that they weren't getting a lot of production by common ownership. There were people that were kind of slackers, and they felt that if they assigned them their own property, they'd get better production. Because this was the starving time, they really needed everyone to contribute to developing corn, which was the primary crop, and that vote helped save the colony and set forward America's tremendous history of private property ownership. I want to thank Lorna Green Baker and Christine Richards, Mike Simmons for doing the work here today, and Brockton Cable Access for allowing me to share this information with other cable providers to share with people what for most people is information about their most valuable asset. So hope you have a great President's Weekend coming up, and we'll see you in March.